I've been doing this series of presentations on this Olmsted Hub I've been working on pretty much this entire year. So this is going to be the same slide that I've shown the past few presentations, but it's a 400-unit apartment building on the Upper West Side off of the 96th Street BC station, right near the Central Park Transverse. It's relatively accessible. It's got 20 stories. It's a set of 4 buildings on a single property, so 1,600 units total, but they're all separate management. We're just doing this one 400-unit building for now. The overall installation was basement, roof, and then each half of the building is kind of its own building with a partition in between. So it was kind of doing 2 separate 20-story buildings. We decided to install 1 gig and 10 gig fiber to all the units in the building. So that's the goal, that's the background. We've made some progress. We're not all the way there yet, although we're underway. This building is going to be served by a dark fiber link to 325 Hudson Street, which is a data center down in Lower Manhattan. We finally, after I think initiating the process in April, we finally have our fiber landed in the building with ports that we can connect to, with ports, matching ports in the data center. We haven't connected the data center side yet, but the ports are here and ready to go. Zach talked about this a little bit earlier. I reused the picture that we saw earlier as well. This bottom left graph is the visualization of the fiber trace that they provide to basically prove that the fiber link is continuous the entire way through. It's kind of neat. I haven't seen this before, but it'll show you where all the splices were made underneath the street, so you can kind of get an idea of how many splices went into this. And it also says the overall length, which I think was 13 kilometers. If you actually look on Google Maps, it's about an 8-kilometer line of sight, or as the crow flies. So it's doing some winding under the street, I think. So, yep, that's ready to go. We're now on the hook as well for paying monthly for that, so we better start using it as quickly as we can. Next thing we did was we added a high bandwidth link between CCNY up in Harlem and this site. So we can see Andrew in the bottom left with a safety harness on top of CCNY next to their observatory dome, experiment dome thing. And yeah, we were aligning the antennas. The bottom right picture is at the Olmsted end, pointed up towards CCNY. I think it's almost a 2-mile link, so it's very hard to see with the naked eye, but with alignment tools, as you can see in the middle of the screen, it makes it a little bit easier. So that's all good to go, and now we have 1 gigabit duplex traffic capability where we previously had 100 megabit. So yeah, much better performance, although because it's 60 gigahertz, as Matt mentioned, it does go down in the rain. There's a 5 gigahertz backup that drops down to the 100 megabits that we had before. I guess I should also mention that this is intended to supply CCNY with an alternate way out to the internet once the data center gets hooked up. So while it's not ready and being used yet, it's kind of backfeeding Olmsted while the data center isn't live, but it will eventually feed CCNY. Next update, we were running off janky power strips beforehand, just whatever we could find. The building, we have a good relationship with the building and the maintenance team, and they were able to just add 2 circuit outlets for us. So now we have 2 circuits available in each of the roof rack and the basement rack. So if one circuit trips, we have the other one able to supply power. So that's great. We started installing the fiber to the different units. We're doing a single test floor right now, the 15th floor on the east wing. We got 2 units installed with 1 gig fiber ONUs, and those are working flawlessly, thankfully. The 10 gig ONUs are having some issues. I'm talking to Ubiquiti support about that right now and making progress on that, but for now, the 1 gig is working. So that's good. I actually submitted the board request earlier today for the bill of materials to actually go and expand to the other, I guess, 40 floors of the building. Yeah, so I'll wait on that. Then we wait a month and a half for the cables to come from China, and then we get to start spending probably 1 or 2 weeks of volunteer time installing those in all the different floors. And then, not a very exciting picture. You'll want to look at this later. The link is on Slack, but we've been getting a really good network diagram going of the building, and this has come in handy. Even though I designed this has come in handy so many times. to just reference what are all the different VLANs and how are all these things connected together. So I want to thank Scott, who isn't here, for making this diagram. But yep. In terms of what's next, we're going to be doing, the rest of the building fiber, and then the data center is going to be coming online. That's working with Zach and getting the servers and the VPP and whatever else installed. And then, hopefully having some people to come during business hours on weekdays to help me run fiber up and down conduits and run through the basement. And then I've changed this multiple times. Hopefully now in October, we'll be able to actually send out the email blast to the 200 residents that have said yes or maybe to being interested in Mesh. And we can say, hey, if you're still interested, sorry about the delay, go to nycmesh.net/join and fill out the form and we'll coordinate an install time. So that's where we're looking. And the list keeps growing and growing. I've got a couple dozen people that have helped out so far. So thanks to the people in the room and people elsewhere that have been helping out. Yep, that's it. Any questions for this presentation? No?